Yo, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Lakeshow Digest. The Lakers just played game two of their first round series against the Suns in Phoenix. They were able to escape with a W in a really hard fought battle, 109 to 102. Chris Paul's shoulder is still bothering him, so they barely used him at all. But Devin Booker, Ayton, Cameron Payne all put up a fight. By the way, fuck Cameron Payne and fuck Jay Crowder. We'll get into that a little more. Anthony Davis was way more aggressive. Dennis Schroeder was draining threes, hitting free throws, getting to the rim. He was looking like the player we want to see in the playoffs. Andre Drummond even played a huge role after having a huge fucking polarizing game. Not even polarizing, man, just like a shitty game that everyone kind of acknowledged was bad, but some people were defending him, some people were throwing him under the bus. I'd say I was one of those people throwing him under the bus. My buddy Phil here, he was defending him. So we can talk about that evolution from game one to game two. LeBron went into closer mode too in the
I
fourth
would just
quarter.
like to take a moment to say to all of the Drummond haters that I have been engaging with online in the last several days. Okay, that's it.
I love it. I love your evil laugh. Let's go. Bro, it's things change, man. And it seems like the sky is falling sometimes, but shit changes, bro. And especially if you have LeBron on your team and you have AD on your team, shit can change quick. But we were able to get 1 or 2 games in Phoenix, man, and we were able to steal home court. That was probably our goal, just get one of these two. 2 would have been amazing, obviously. But regardless, it was a fantastic response after that piece of shit effort we got in game 1. So, Phil, man, how you doing? What'd you see in that game? Want to hear your thoughts?
Hey, man, how's it going? I want to start out by giving Phoenix their flowers because they're playing without their MVP candidate for most of the game when he was playing. Like, Chris Paul didn't shoot anywhere outside of 18 feet in this game because he doesn't trust that shoulder to get his elevation. So for Coach Williams, for Devin Booker, and for that team, which outside of Chris Paul has not a ton of playoff experience at the top of the roster, props to them for not just shit canning us in the first game, but then coming back and fighting back when they could have just let themselves get blown out and taking a late fourth quarter lead that required a response. I've been really impressed with the Suns, especially how they're dealing with the Chris Paul injury. For the Lakers, they made a couple of early adjustments that were key. Well, first of all, Anthony Davis just decided he was going to go to the basket.
Thank God.
The lack of pressure on the rim was my single biggest note from the first game offensively. And Anthony Davis solved that really early on. Got Jay Crowder and Ayton in foul trouble early on with his aggressiveness. And I think that really opened up a lot of the game for Andre Drummond because he was able to be physical and push those guys around knowing that they were concerned about getting another foul call.
Good point.
And
yeah.
I think that helped some of his early position. And I also know they started keeping Drummond way farther back in the pick and roll coverages. He's not trying to hedge or blitz anymore. He's back covering the lob, which there were a couple of those that he snatched that would have just been 8 and dunks in game 1 based on where he was positioned. And then occasionally Vogel is bringing the nearest perimeter defender over at the level of the screen. So he's getting sort of the best of both worlds in terms of a point of attack on the screening roll and then blocking Ayton from the lob or the easy dump off against a mismatched defender.
Mm-hmm. Andre Drummond was incredible, man. I was also noticing, and maybe this didn't even happen in game 1, but I was noticing that, when Andre was still in the paint in the dunker spot, I was noticing if we were going to drive, he was rotating out of the way more. So before, maybe he would have kind of stayed in place, but I was noticing that, yeah, he's still in the paint and, Davis or Dennis Schroeder want to drive. But I saw he was just kind of backing out of the way, like kind of just bringing his defender a little further away, which will obviously open up more, like little last minute assist opportunities as well. That was something
And I'd like to see him doing that even to a little bit more further of an extent than he has. Because if he clears out even to the point of like free throw line extended near the wing,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't matter if his defender comes with him, which they won't because he can't shoot. Because if the defender brings that extra person in the paint and Ayton has a chance, or not Ayton, but, and Drummond has a chance to cut and sort of get ahead of steam going to the basket, nobody's going to stand in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be able to get a lot of those like business decision dunks, I think, if he can get ahead of steam and his defenders not able to stay out of the restricted area. So I would like to see him doing that even a little bit more, but you're spot on with that, I think.
Yeah. I think it's only going to get better with time, man. More time, more practice. There were runs in this game that made me feel like, oh, this team is kind of figuring stuff out, offensively. We had a good first quarter, and I'm trying to remember which quarter it was, but there were a couple runs, maybe it was the third, where I was feeling like, oh, we are starting to put it together. But there were also moments where it seems like we still have a bit of a ways to go. But in terms of Drummond, what do you think were the differences in his game from game 1 to game 2?
There was a little bit better scheming, a couple of scheme adjustments. He seemed a lot more focused too. There were several
Yeah.
of these plays in game 1 where like you saw the play where no one was guarding DeAndre Ayton under the basket, and they got lucky because Ayton never realized it, and Dennis is just pointing at him to Drummond, who's guarding a guy way off in the corner. That was a
Mhm.
great photo. But there weren't really those moments in this game. Even when Drummond got beat, he got beat either trying to get to or being in where he was supposed to be at that point. And just the thing with Drummond is because his role is so much reduced from what it was earlier in his career, all he has to do is minimize mistakes, and he's a value player because he's going to grab a couple offensive rebounds. He's going to be big. He's going to, get a dunk or a putback or a tip in every now and then. And that's all they need him to do. If he's not making mistakes and doing that, he's doing his job.
Yeah, it's just like it was with Dwight and JaVale last year, man. Except he's a much higher ceiling player in that role. As we've talked
Exactly.
about early on the pods and shit. I think what you said about Focus was spot on. His hook shots were falling too, and usually I don't expect those hook shots to fall based off what we've seen from Drummond. But the hook shots were falling. He was focused. He was just a lot stronger on the boards. He just really didn't want to get beat by those lobs, and those lobs were fucking killing us in game 1, man. But I had a thought too. It seems like we're gonna we just don't want to let Devin Booker beat us, and I think we're just gonna try and defend the fuck out of the 3-point line because Aiden was still like 11 of 13. He still had like 20 points. It seems like we haven't really schemed for him yet. I wonder if we're gonna see that later on in the series. But what are your thoughts on how Aiden's been so far and how it was game 2?
Ayton has been probably the most under talked about person from this series, especially for a big in his first playoff series. Like he's doing exactly what he is supposed to do all the time. He's
Yeah.
protecting the paint like a monster. He's grabbing rebounds. He's pushing people out of the way. And he's been incredibly efficient, like 10 for 11, and I think like 11 for 13,
Hmm.
because most of what he's getting are lobs and putbacks, lobs and putbacks. And he's not trying to do too much, but he's accomplishing a lot because he's not trying to do too much.
Yeah. I think.
And I also think that they're able to, just going back to something I made a mental note to say, I think they're focusing on Booker even more now. Like Vogel is milking this Chris Paul injury.
Yes.
They weren't defending Chris Paul anywhere near the 3-point line yesterday because until Vogel sees him take it on that shoulder, he's not going to bother and he's going to try to get that advantage there. And that I think is where the Suns might really suffer in Los Angeles if he's not feeling any better. Because I don't think that Booker and Ayton by themselves can beat this team.
I don't think so either. And even as we start putting the pieces together, I think we're going to start seeing some bigger margins of victory. And once we start getting our chemistry on the same page, our on-court chemistry. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Booker and Ayton will be able to beat us. Maybe they'll be able to steal one more game, but if Chris Paul isn't the same, yeah, it's not much of a series. But talking about Paul, I think their mentality was, okay, we got game 1 and we're doing pretty good in game 2. Let's see if we can steal this over them. And if not, let's give Paul the extra rest for game 3 in LA. That's what I thought their mentality was. I guess, we're not medical people, but I wonder if Chris Paul is going to have any marginal improvements in his health until Thursday. You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea. Like they're being really vague about what the injury actually is. And
Yeah.
even if they weren't, I don't know all that much about injury return timelines.
Yeah.
Um, but you could see him suffering on the bench, not being in that game, man. He wanted to be on the court so bad. And I felt bad for him.
I did too, not gonna lie, because dude, he would have won a championship in Houston if his hamstring didn't go out. I thought they had that
They,
series.
and that's something that is not talked about enough, is that they had that Warriors team figured out. Like they were on the ropes.
Hmm.
And it took a Chris Paul injury and a historically bad 3-point performance for the Warriors to get past that team.
He's always had really bad luck with injuries, not gonna lie. I'm still I wouldn't say I'm a Chris Paul fan because I think he's an asshole, but I do respect his game and what he's able to do on the court. And I think he's had a lot of bad luck. He has had moments where he's choked, but these injuries have killed him, bro. Um, I think this series would have been. I don't want to talk like it's over, but if we had a healthy Chris Paul, this series has a different fucking look, man.
Yeah, and this like Phoenix to me has been. I think the Lakers healthy are the best team in the Western Conference, but Phoenix to me this year has been the second best.
Better
Um,
than the Jazz, you'd say, even with Jazz are healthy.
yes, in the playoffs in particular, because I trust Aiton not to get played off the floor on switches more than I trust Gobert not to.
Funny to say that about one guy who's like kind of defensively soft or has a reputation for it, and one guy's the depoy, but
Mhm.
he gets played off the floor, man. Although Gobert has come a little bit, he's come a bit of a ways. I think he gets played off the floor a little bit less, but that's still always in play with him.
And I also think that Chris Paul and Devin Booker is not really appreciated for how well those two people's skill sets complement themselves, even though
Suns
they're
fans been
extremely
saying they
different.
needed a point guard for the longest time.
And they got one who could. And the thing is, too, having a point guard whose shot is respectable at three levels is really what unlocked that offense for Monty Williams.
Hmm.
And going back to what you were saying, to the extent that he can't really shoot the threes or is really struggling on the mid range or doesn't want to go to the rim to get contact, like that's a problem for their offense moving forward, because Chris Paul is really, the Booker might be the outcome of their offense, like in terms of his performance, but Chris Paul is kind of the engine.
Hmm.
And that without him, it's going to be a hard time for them.
Most certainly, dude. Um, yeah, it's kind of like how I'd say LeBron a lot of times is the engine and AD is the outcome. When both are playing at their peaks and the way they want to. LeBron wants to get other guys involved like that. So it's
Yeah,
similar
like
to our.
one guy creates an advantage and then someone else exploits it.
Yeah, exactly. But I got respect for him, man. I feel like the general sentiment in Game 3 is that we're home, and we have some momentum. We're gonna win this. We might steamroll them. I still think this is gonna be a pretty close game. Um, Phoenix just has some fight in them, man. Cameron Payne and Jay Crowder, I fucking hate those guys. But I knew once they started their little instigating shit. Oh, these are gonna be the instigators for the series. If you watch basketball for a long time, like me and Phil, um, there's always that instigator in the playoff series, and those two are going to be it. Phoenix is going to need Cameron Payne to still average like 20. This guy's averaging like 20 against us, dude. So they're gonna need Payne, and we still haven't gotten a big like 3-point shooting performance. Michael Bridges, is that how we say his name?
McCall, I think.
Mikal Bridges, yeah. So I feel like he's due for one of those. I'm still pretty high on this team though. I think that game was huge for us. Another difference maker I thought in this game was just our general defensive attention, dude. It was apparent in the first quarter once we saw LeBron jump in these passing lanes. We took defense a lot more seriously in this one. I got to say, though, something I wanted to say after that game one. I know it was a feel out game, but bro, I'm sick of feel out games. Of course, I just want to see my team win. And hey, we had some feel out games last year in the bubble and we ended up winning, but I feel like with our injuries, we have less margin for error, obviously. I wonder if these feel out games are going to cost us. That's something that's just in my mind. I just don't like giving away games, bro. But if it means that they can get healthier by, kind of taking these in one game, kind of see the logic. But where are you at with feel out games? What do you feel when you see the Lakers kind of taking it easy, or Frank maybe not even using his best lineups in game one?
It The thing with Frank is he can be frustrating to watch, even though he's so effective, because Frank brings the same decision tree and like the same framework to every series. Like he has his base game plan. And in every new series, he says, okay, can you beat my base game plan? And then they do. And then he just moves down the adjustment tree. But he always starts at, this is what we would like to do ideally. So let's see how it goes. And that can be frustrating when you're looking at a matchup and you see his base game plan. And you're someone like, Tim Cranges on Twitter going, hey, they should change the base game plan to do this. And then they don't do that and they get destroyed on that action. It can be frustrating for people, but that's just, it's hard for me to complain about Frank doing that, even though it's frustrating, because it is a just devastatingly logical and effective way to go at it when you have dominant players.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of just inclined to take the bad with the good a bit there.
I get frustrated at him. It seems like giving away games when he knows the right adjustment and he chooses not to do it. We saw Mark. Let's talk about Mark a bit. We finally saw some fucking Marc Gasol. He had that second center shift off the bench. I think it was past the 6-minute mark in the first.
All right, we got a quick pause before we talk about Mark, because my baby just made a cameo.
Hey, baby.
Say hi.
Yeah. That's how you get her out of there, man. You point the camera at her and she's like, no, I'm confused. What do I do?
She's a little screen shy, but Mark Gasol in his minutes was really effective offensively. He created a lot of space. He didn't do very many of the sort of classic Marc Gasol kind of, back cut passes,
capitalizing
or the really fancy bounce passes into a layup that he's accustomed to doing. But he provided spacing. He hit a couple threes. Defensively, he had problems.
Yeah, we gave up a lead when he went in, but he was solid, I thought.
Yeah, and I was listening to the Laker Film Room podcast this morning, doing my recap, and they had a really good analysis of how Booker was adjusting the angles he's taking on screens, in order to kind of exploit Gasol's age, make him move his hips a little bit more and get an advantage where he was just kind of taking a straight line around that screen against Ayton. So they have found ways to exploit Gasol defensively, so I don't think he's going to have huge minutes, but for instance, in minutes when Booker is not on the floor, I think that if I were Frank, those are the minutes that I would attack.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of our other center, though, we didn't get any Montrezl Harrell minutes. What do you think of that? And do you think we have a role for him in this series?
I think we have a role for him in these playoffs. I think game one showed pretty definitively it's going to be hard for him to stay on the court, because where he really struggles is when he is against guys that are bigger than him, but who can match his effort.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he doesn't have the size of a DeAndre Ayton. And if Ayton is going to be putting in that kind of effort on the boards, then Trez is going to get bullied a little bit.
I think the same thing.
I think his minutes are just going to be Marc Gasol minutes throughout the series for the most part. I imagine we will see him again if we win this series in the second round, again because of Frank's decision tree, and he wants to see how you handle each of his options. But I will be surprised, and particularly if we keep winning, I'll be surprised if we see Trez again against Phoenix.
Yeah, the only reason I see him coming in would be if we need some scoring really badly, if we're just fucking dead. And I'd like to see him. We saw a bit in game one. It got burned defensively, but just LeBron and Trez offensively. LeBron knows how to get the ball to him. LeBron's the only guy I really trust to get the ball to a guy like Andre too. Dennis's passing is a little suspect sometimes. But if we are going to see Trez, we might need some scoring. And LeBron's going to be the guy serving it up for him essentially. That's how I see it playing out. But I like the way we're moving forward with the center rotation. if Drummond's going to keep playing like that and keep being strong on the boards, then I like him again. You know, he's not in the doghouse with me for a little bit.
He's got provisional status.
He's got provisions. Yeah, he can come out of the doghouse and like he can walk around on the grass, like take a shit. He can do what he needs to do. But if he starts playing bad, he's going back in the doghouse. So keep it up, Andre. Man, you're looking good out there. One thing I want to talk about, that last stretch in crunch time where we had AD at the 5, bro, we just fucking shut the water off on them. I forgot who else was there, but it was AD at the 5, LeBron, probably Caruso. Do you remember who that final closing lineup was?
AD, LeBron, I think it was KCP, Caruso, and maybe Wes.
KCP, yeah, because he got yelled at by LeBron. I love that, by the way.
Shoot the ball. And he's right, because KCP is getting in his own head about missing these shots. And he just needs to be shooting. I've been wondering if maybe some of these shooters are a little bit intimidated by the crowd size, because they haven't played in front of crowds like that since 2018, basically, or early 2020. So I can see how on the road that might be kind of an intimidation factor. We'll see if the shooting improves a little bit in more friendly environs. But you're right. That last bit, Anthony Davis did Anthony Davis things on defense. They had Caruso trying to guard Ayton in the post, and he was just barbecue chicken. And then all of a sudden, Anthony Davis swoops in and absorbs this shot.
That was the first play of AD at the 5, and I'm like, oh boy, AD's at 5, something's gonna happen. Oh, I fucking told you it was. Let's go.
Yeah. He makes these. You're speechless, because he just, it's the kind of thing that Shaq or Wilt used to do, where they just overpower you and take the ball, and they're big and they're really high up in the air, and it's kind of awe-inspiring.
I know, man. AD at the 5 was just the thing we needed right then and there. And LeBron closed it out offensively for us, bro. AD hit that really crucial 3. LeBron, he hit that big fucking 3, yelling at the crowd. I love having the crowds back, by the way. It feels like we're really playing NBA hoops again.
Yeah, it's real. Like, not that, I know everyone who's probably watching this podcast has had to roll their eyes at someone discounting the bubble title, but it is a different kind of game when you've got people watching and cheering and yelling abuse. It's really fun.
I know, and that Phoenix crowd does not like us, dude. It's starting to feel like the good old days when we had Kobe and Powell. Everyone just fucking hating us. The other great Laker teams of the past too.
And it's like, the Lakers are good when people are mad again.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's just so satisfying to see them hate so much, because that means we don't suck anymore.
I know, yeah. What I hope to see, what I think will be very satisfying, will be karma coming for Cameron Payne, dude. That man is just talking hella shit whenever he just makes a shot, and he's talking to our boy Caruso too. So we can never stand for that.
Yeah, but I imagine he'll get Jordan Pooled at some point.
I know. I'm just like fantasizing about his downfall right now. I'm like, what I want to see THT dunk on him and end his life at Staples Center. I think that would be my ideal way to see him just like get fucking shitted on, man. What do you think?
I'd rather it be Caruso, because Caruso's the one he threw the ball at.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And Caruso catching bodies is always fun, because everyone from the announcer to the crowd to the bench loses their minds every time it happens, even though they know he can do it.
Let's get both of them. Let's get Caruso and THT. Maybe a THT alley-oop to Caruso over Payne. It's gonna be a long series. I think we're gonna see it.
Caruso threw one down off an open lane in the game last night
to seal it,
and I thought Kevin Harlan was gonna have a freaking heart attack.
I know. I love their reaction right there. I hope it's Caruso that does it to him. I guess we should touch on Jay Crowder too, man. He got kicked in the balls in the first quarter, and that's probably one of the guys that deserves it. He has a reputation for being a dirty player in the league. And I thought he did have one play on that LeBron 3 Kevin Harlan, maybe it was Harlan, but he was talking about it. How like, or no, it was Reggie, I think. Talked about how Anthony Davis screened really well for him, but they just didn't acknowledge at all Crowder literally throwing Anthony Davis to the fucking ground. Did you see that on the commentary?
Yeah. Crowder's a bruiser, and there are how do you say this? There are ethical bruisers in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Jay Crowder is one of them. So I did not feel much sympathy for him.
I didn't at all. I was kind of just laughing to myself, like, bro,
Like
you've
the
done things that probably mean you deserve this.
I will take that flagrant. The only thing to me that was wrong with that play was AD missed a shot.
I know, right? Yeah. Um, I think that about wraps up for my thoughts on the game. You got any final thoughts or anything's looking ahead to game 3?
In terms of the Lakers, no, but I do want to take a moment to, weirdly enough, defend Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
You're right. I forgot. You want to defend him though? I said let's have a Clippers slander party, but you want to defend him.
I will defend those two guys. I am about to slander the living hell out of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
But last year, it was the stars for the Clippers that shit the bed. That's not what's happening this year. What's happening this year is cocky and frankly inadequate roster construction from an ownership group and front office that thinks they can buy wins. And
Yeah.
that's how they've operated for the last few years now. And then talked like they arrived because they were buying enough talent for them to say that they had it in the bag. And this is the predictable result of not respecting the process, not respecting chemistry, not respecting defense, and not respecting the abilities of your opponents. Luka Doncic just torching them and then talking to them all the way up the court and then coming back down and torching them again. Yeah, man, it's to me, it's the front office and the role players that it's not enough. And they have kept pretending that they're just going to win. Like they have done in many ways what people have accused the Lakers of doing, which
Mm-hmm.
is sitting on the laurels of your stars and just pretending that they're going to take you through everything. But that's really what the Clippers have done. Luka had I was tweeting about this. Luka had 7 turnovers last night. Kawhi had 40 and like 8 assists or 6 assists. Paul George basically had 30. The only thing that Paul George didn't do well in the game last night was shoot from 3. And they still lost at home.
Didn't the
Because
team do really well from 3 too? Like percentage wise.
didn't who?
The team? Like I thought the Clippers as a team shot well from 3 too.
I didn't see the team stats. I know Dallas has been shooting like bonkers from 3 so far in this series.
Mm-hmm.
But it like they're doing like they're big guys are coming through for them, and they're still losing home games against what's supposed to be an inferior team. Like this is scarier to me for the Clippers right now, this situation, than any situation they were in the playoffs last year.
They're down
And
2-0, bro.
that includes going into game 7 versus Denver. Like, and then Paul George is going to come out after the game. This is my one bitch with him. He's going to come out after the game talking about, oh, we're not concerned. Like, if you're not concerned after getting swept off your home court twice by a group of people who you tanked to play, then what the hell are you going to be concerned about, dude? Like, you're getting paid a lot of money and you're embarrassing yourself. At some point, you should probably give a shit. I don't get it, man. Like, I don't understand that attitude at all. Like, if you ask Anthony Davis that question, are you concerned? Or LeBron James, like, yeah, I'm concerned. We just lost 2 games at home.
Honestly, I think they would say no. I think that's just how like athletes have to approach it. You can't act like you're rattled at all. Maybe there was a different way for him to phrase it, because when it says like he's not concerned, it gets into that not respecting the game and not respecting the process, I think. And the Clippers are guilty as fuck of that going back to last year.
Well, and maybe the reason it annoys me so much coming from them is because it goes so much against the image of themselves that they've tried very hard to construct
Yeah.
as this like blue collar team that wins through its effort and stick to itiveness. Like at this point they have appropriated the identity of the 2019 Clippers, pretty
Mhm.
much none of whom remain, and have tried to graft it onto this very different team. And they act as though that they have this identity, and then they bring this lackadaisical who gives up kind of energy to a lot of stuff. Like, oh, we're gonna be fine, and they're not.
Mm-hmm. How do you think Game 3 is going to go?
I think the Clippers probably steal game 3. Maybe they'll fold, but I have a little bit too much respect for Kawhi Leonard not to think that he can take a game for them. But I think this is probably at this point, like unless the Clippers really turn it around, it's a 5-game series, maybe 6.
I'm starting to think it's going to be they lose Game 3, they win Game 4, they get eliminated Game 5.
That's not implausible. Like they really need to do some soul searching between now and game 3, because if they don't, they are in big trouble.
Internally, they are probably fucking rattled right now. I mean, you lose in the second round last year. Now you're on the way to lose in the first round. You're down 2-0. I could
Yeah,
see
they should really bring someone in to be a leader in the locker room.
they need that. They need someone like Rondo. Oh wait, they do have him.
And I'm absolutely throwing shade because they've got 2 max players. And who's the leader of that team? Like, you know who the best player is, but who's the leader? Who's
They thought it
rallying
was
them
going to be Kawhi.
emotionally? Like, it's supposed to be Kawhi, but it doesn't really look like it is. Like,
It
they
was
rally around Kawhi when he plays well, but I don't really see Kawhi bringing the team with him. He just plays really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It to me it was clear after that Nuggets series that it's kind of what you're getting into what you were saying. He's a guy that plays really well, but he still needs to go a long way as a leader. And I don't know if he will because he's just such a shy guy normally. But something's got to change with them, man. I guess they thought playoff Rondo would be the guy to be the leader and call people out and shit, but didn't work in game 2. Um, Kawhi had the big 3 Spurs who were just like the de facto leader in his first title. Then you had guys like Kyle Lowry, ton of fucking vets, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka. So yeah, he just had to play well. And they were the ones trying to impress him and try and get him to stay. So they're more likely to step up and be that leader and take those responsibilities, I feel.
And it's just, I don't even want to say, I maybe make a distinction here between like leadership on the court in terms of your play and emotional leadership of the team. Because Kawhi absolutely does like get people in their spots, and he gets into people's faces and he tells them what they're doing wrong on the court. Like he does do all of that stuff that you would expect a sort of floor general to do.
Mm,
But in terms of like bringing the team back from an emotional loss or getting them psyched up, like rallying them to dig deep into themselves for something else, that's not really something that Kawhi seems to have either the gift for or maybe the interest in. Like it's not who he is as a person. It's not something that he feels comfortable doing.
mm-hmm.
And that's really where the guys like, the Tony Parkers and the Kyle Lowrys have been very good to him in his career, because those were like big emotional guys who weren't scared to take that emotional leadership role while Kawhi was just getting buckets. And he needs to have someone like that on this Clippers team, or I don't think they're going to have a lot of success.
Yep. Because I don't see Paul George really doing it either.
Because they don't respect Paul George in the locker room. That's the problem. Is that they know that he's the second best player, but you could see the visible irritation with him just saying random crap last year, and not holding himself accountable while being perfectly willing to hold a lot of other people accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't even think if he wanted to, I don't think he has the authority in the locker room to take that role on.
Certainly didn't happen in last year's locker room. It's got to be playoff Rondo for him, if anyone. If anyone's going to do it, I think it's going to be Rondo. I think they're losing in 5, man. That's what my gut feeling is saying right now, and that's going to be
Yeah,
a
that's kind of where I'm at too, unless I see something very different tactically from them in game 3.
I think the Mavs are just going to ride that momentum of having the crowd at their back and being able to go up 3-0. Yeah, I see
And
Luka
the
capitalizing.
capacities in Texas are way higher than they are in LA right now.
I mean, the
So
Clippers still got freaking cardboard cutouts in there.
I was laughing, man. Everybody was clowning TNT and the NBA for not having the Lakers and the Clippers games on at separate times.
Mm-hmm.
But TNT doesn't want to air a bunch of cardboard cutouts for people to look at all game. That's ridiculous.
I know. I was like,
That's
what?
good on NBA TV.
I'm like, they're still doing cardboard cutouts? Is that because of COVID or is that because they don't have any fans?
It's like the Nets with their advertisement for James Harden to buy half their tickets to get people in. I've seen a lot of Knicks people clowning that.
It's just as desperate, bro. I mean, why are you having James Harden offer to buy people's tickets if you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving there too? Shit. I mean,
Well,
what
and
the
also
hell?
like, aren't they owned by like a Russian billionaire or something? Like, didn't that dude pay for someone's ticket?
Oh, I'm sure he could, but that's his money, you know? So why would he do that? Use James Harden's money. There you go. Yeah, man. I was very I was confused and chuckling at that too, of the Clippers still having cardboard cutouts in their like premiere section too. I mean, why can't you get? Don't the Lakers have fans there in that section? Where the
I
Clippers?
haven't really looked, to be honest.
Oh, you know what? We have fans, but we have just something like something draped over the seats there, and it just says Lakers, I believe.
Oh, right. Yeah. So it doesn't just look like a bunch of empty seats, which
I mean, the Clippers couldn't even do that. They have the cardboard. I mean, it's the jokes write themselves with those people, man. If you want to brush off the stigma of not having fans, maybe take out the cardboard cutouts from your premier seats, bro.
yeah, but to be fair, these are the guys who covered up our banners so they didn't have to look at them. So maybe
So we
we're
know what kind of
expecting
people
too
we're
much.
dealing with here. Fuck, bro. I'm looking forward to game 3. That's all I'll say, man.
Yeah,
I,
I think I've clowned the Clippers enough for today.
I think so too. We got a Lakers win. We're at 1-1. We got a Celtics loss too. They got fucking smacked. And we got a Clippers loss. It was a good day yesterday, bro. Thanks for
And Jake
coming on.
Crowder got kicked in the stumps. Don't forget that part.
That's right. Yep. But thanks for coming on, recapping it all with me, dude.
Yeah,
Excited to
you're a
have you
great
on
guy,
next
dude.
time. All right. Later.
Like,